right, good evening, everyone. It's 8 o'clock. I want to get started on time so that we are mindful of our time. Thank you very much for joining us. As you know, we did not release a podcast yet this month, and that is because we've got so much that's been coming out kind of lately that we wanted to get it out to you first in this coach's call, and then we will kind of follow up with a podcast. But to get started with everything right now, uh, we are sitting with 50 teams as of today, the 21st of January. And that is 445 riders. We have increased by 81 over the 364 we had last time we talked. 445 licensed coaches. We have 102 female. We've added 23, and we have 343 male. We've added 58. So we are sitting at really roughly about 25% female coaches. Definitely encourage you to try and up those numbers so that we can get eventually to our goal of 50-50, since we are 50% male and 50% female in the world. We'd like to have the league kind of be representative of that. We have 803 riders. We're up 150. We have added 47 high schoolers to have a total of 345. And we've added 103 middle schoolers to have 458. Brian, I think you were talking about numbers of fifth graders. Do we have a number of fifth graders that you can share?
54 off the top of my head. Let me look at Pit Zone real quick. I was
All right.
just looking at that today, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, and does that come out of the middle school numbers?
It's in the middle school numbers. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, in that 458 middle schoolers is actually 54 fifth graders. Excellent. We're sitting right now at 1,453.75 teen trail core hours. We're up 195.5 from this time last month, which is pretty amazing since we're getting into when it's really cold. So that's some dedicated trail building. Definitely lots of opportunities out here in the West to get some teen trail core hours in with all of the damage from the hurricane. But definitely would expect that as things get warmer, there's going to be a lot more hours being added pretty rapidly. The important dates that I've got here, these are our event dates. So these are the main dates, not the rain dates. And you can see that we have the 5 competition events and then the state championships on May 10th and 11th. All right. Main topic for this evening, couple of things. Student athletes that are registering today or later will not receive personalized plates. So that deadline was kind of yesterday, and so we're now kind of in the process of getting all of that stuff sorted. So any registrations or any category placement upgrades that are received from today onward, those will not be getting those plates with their names on them, but we will still accept registrations for new student athletes, as well as any category placement petitions. Those just won't get processed with their own personalized plate, but we'll still do those. One of the things I want to point out to you is in the coach resources page, not just the category placement petition, but actually the CPT tool that will allow you to kind of put your student athlete in there and see how they will stack up in whatever category they are thinking of moving to and petitioning. And that will help guide that decision. That's one of the things that the race committee looks at, is where they will fall, and they make decisions to approve or not based on kind of what that looks like. So use that CPT tool to kind of make sure that you are getting a good idea of where they would fit and whether or not that category placement petition is even I'd say justified. Brian, is there anything you want to add on that? Because I know you deal a lot with these.
No, just be as detailed as you can in the reason and the background for the petition. The tool is very helpful if it's an athlete we have some data on from last season. And we've shared that with a lot of the coaches so far that have submitted petitions. Hey, that might be a little bit too much of a stretch goal for them. or vice versa. So yeah, use the tool before you submit if they're a returning student athlete. Otherwise, be as descriptive as you can. I am curious about the dynamic this season. I do know we've had a lot of teams not able to practice and get their eyes on athletes, but we are way below the normal amount of petitions we've received in previous seasons. I think there's maybe a total of, let's see, yeah, 8 petitions so far this season. I think we're usually around 40 or so going into this time of the year. Again, I think that's because coaches haven't gotten eyes on. Completely understandable, and that you can still petition up until the first race and even beyond. But again, we want to emphasize that to get names on race plates if possible in the right category, like you said. And today, actually, if you do register today by midnight, I think Diane and Hiker are pulling the registration report in the morning for doing the race plate ordering.
All right. So you have until the end of the day today. All right. And I would say maybe, Brian, it's not that coaches haven't gotten their eyes on people, but maybe that the category placement table that has been worked on by the race committee is like so good that we're doing a really good job of putting everybody in the correct category. That's the happy
There,
spin
there,
I would put on it.
there was a lot of good work that went into it, and I do think we have a good process for placing athletes better than it was in previous seasons. And give everyone just a reminder of what that is. If you look at our category placement table, athletes are placed on their best 2 races from last season. So we took an average of the best 2 finishes from last season and used that rather than season points, which bias towards participation. And I've shared with a lot of folks that means an athlete that maybe did all 4 last season compared to an athlete that just did 2 doesn't mean the athlete that did all 4 is faster than an athlete that did just 2. So I think the 2 race average dialed us in a little bit better. So yes, Sean, that's right. We could just be better placing our athletes from the start. So we'll see.
All right. The other items to really bring to your attention, there is new camping registration thanks to Brian Rabelais, our coordinator for camping. And the camping registration links have been sent to home team head coaches. And so these should be shared with their teams so that they kind of get first dibs on camping at venues where they are the home team and therefore kind of doing the front of the work for gathering volunteers and things like that for those races. Brian Rabelais, is there anything you want to add to that? Maybe Brian's not here.
I'll add on to it, Sean, just
Okay.
because a change from last season. Yes, the idea for this season is every set of home teams got their camping registration link for their venue. So first 5 venues, those home teams got a registration link. And again, just like Sean said, that's because we appreciate you bringing the volunteers for that venue, gives you an early opportunity to register. Next week, I will put all of those links for all of the venues on the website and send out a Team Snap email to the entire league that says camping is open for all venues. Folks that have been around know we typically do that venue by venue. About 30 days out last season, we got the camping out. We just want to get all the camping out as early as we can for all the venues. So next week, anticipate that big notification email to go out that camping is open for everyone. We are giving the home teams first dibs, so to speak, for all the right reasons.
And just like race competition events or weekend events, in the event of a rain cancellation, camping is not refunded, correct?
I think I'm flexible on that, Ben.
Okay.
I think that's a lot easier for us to do in Team Snap. But to the cancellation, and you used the cancellation word in this meeting first. I'll mention. It's going to be a little weird because we do have rain dates.
Yeah.
The issue for us is camping doesn't translate cleanly. So Brian Rabelais and I are going to have to think that through. If we cancel, an event here, we might be at a different venue for the rain date. And so we'll try and transfer as much camping as possible. But as you know, Ben, the sites are different.
Yeah.
So we'll have to think that through and just communicate with everyone as clearly as possible. The easiest thing for us might be just refund everyone and start afresh with camping, is my sense. But I'll work with Brian Rabelais and let folks know as we get closer.
All right. I saw Ryan Dennell. You had a question.
Yeah, it was basically that question. Hope you can hear me about what are we going to do about the rain days if we activate them. So I'll just wait and see. No problem.
All right. Other questions about camping or any questions about the links, how this is all going to work? All right. And then weather guidance. So the league has contracted with AMB Weather to provide weather forecasts for teams to use as guidance for practices. And there is a Facebook page that's been set up for that with the latest information. Brian Russell, I know that this was something that you've been working on, and this was like, it was kind of in that update, but it was maybe easily overlooked. And I think maybe you'd like to speak with that.
Yeah, we have a professional weather service for the season, which is primarily focused on our event weekend. So 6 days out, I'll get and key members of staff will get a forecast, and then we get through the weekend, daily weather alerts and updates to, keep us on track, and that's all good. Part of that package is what they call practice forecasts. So twice a week, AMB Weather will publish forecasts for North Carolina. And each forecast is broken up into our various regions, and you can look very quickly and go, hey, here's my region. And twice a week, you can get an overall view of, hey, do I have a problem or not, to let you do a more detailed analysis, whether you're going to run practice, cancel, modify, whatever the case may be. The easiest way to get access to that is to go to their Facebook page, AMB Weather /Nick Kickle. And we've provided the link in the monthly update. And Sean, I think you're putting it in right there in the agenda. And I think it's Monday. Yeah, I saw it yesterday for this week, and then Friday they'll do another one. So you get a good sense of what's coming up for the week and then going into the weekend with weather forecasts. If you got any feedback, let me know, let Sean know on that. But again, it's a nice product for you to just take a look at the week, look at your region and go, hey, I might have a problem or not, and pay a little more attention to the weather.
So I'm going to pause here to see if anyone has any questions about any of this, concerns, or anything that they want to bring up about anything that might have been released in the head coach and team director news, or anything else that they would like to discuss.
I've got a question on the team snaps side of things.
Okay.
And I know I've talked to both you and Brian about it as well. The March 29th, 30th event weekend, it was Blue Ridge Ranch. It's now Anglers Ridge.
Yes.
And I know we've changed that in Team Snap to reflect
Yes.
the new location. Did anyone on the call receive the email notification of a change from Team Snap? My concern is the Team Snap app is not notifying on our league level side of events.
It does
Even
if
if we
we
do,
tell it to.
yeah, even if we do that check mark, I'm questioning if it's doing it to a mass amount of people, or is there a limit?
Interesting. I didn't make the change, Brian. I think you made the change. Did you check to notify or not?
I honestly can't remember.
Okay.
It's the first time I've had a problem with that if I was deliberate about notifying everyone, meaning much of my league level updates and the like are a click all and they all go out. But
Yeah,
I don't remember if I clicked that or not.
Yes, I see that the location is correct in Team Snap.
yeah.
So yeah, it should all be there.
I don't want to compare Team Snap to Iterable, but seem to have some similar problems.
Maybe. Okay.
But
Um,
for awareness, thank you.
Jim Otto, you had a question about minimum age for fifth graders. Last year it was 10 years old at start of school year for sixth graders. Does that mean this year it is 9 years old at the start of the year for fifth graders? I don't personally know the answer with that. Brian Russell, have you any knowledge of a particular age?
In my head, I do. I think it was 9 years old. We ought to float that to Melissa and Nika just to confirm. I remember it being discussed, but I don't remember seeing it in writing in any of the fifth grade toolkits.
Okay.
Let's
So
get that confirmed, but I think
yeah,
it's 9 years old.
So Jim, I'll follow up with Melissa Davies and I'll loop you in on that email and get that question answered for you from the person who actually knows rather than us supposing about it. I feel like you're right, but let's get some definitive answers on it. All right. Other questions, topics that you feel like we should discuss?
Hey, Sean, it's Ryan. Can you
Yes,
hear me
Ryan.
okay?
Yes, absolutely.
I had a question from a parent about the league, or sorry, the season registration. Like, I think we're offering that again this year, where you can register for everything and you save one registration fee. Is that true?
That is true for the event registrations, Ryan. So if you sign up for all the events, you will get a discount at
So
one time.
that was my question. I haven't tried this myself, so maybe I should just. But is there a check mark to sign up for everything, or do you just put everything in your cart and it happens when you check out?
Everything in your
Makes sense.
cart and the discount is applied when you select all those events.
Okay, awesome. I will communicate that. Thank you.
Great question. All right. Other topics. Let's see, Keith, how long would that discount apply? So how long will the discount apply to register for all the races?
Until the registration for our first event in Salisbury closes, and then you can't register for all the events anymore. So end of February.
And other questions? This is great.
This is Elise Freed. I'm having some families that are having issues using the camping Google Doc. Has anyone else been reporting that?
We had an issue earlier in the day with one of the links, I think for Salisbury lease. What's the issue?
I'm getting all the information I'm getting is the link isn't working.
Okay, just contact Brian Rabelais, and he fixed the previous one in about 5 minutes. It would take me the rest of the night probably to figure out how he's organized it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey everybody, this is Jack from Christ School. I being kind of a new program this year, I haven't designated myself yet as the head coach in NICA, perhaps before the link for the camping got sent out. So how would I go about that now? Receiving that.
I'll forward it to you again, Jack. You were in my email list for the home teams for Christ School, but I'll send it again. Please let me know if you don't get it.
Okay, yeah, my bad then if I didn't see it. Thank you.
I think it was your school address, but yeah, I'll send it again.
Thanks.
And Jack, definitely designate yourself or whoever to be head coach for your team so that we've got that in the system.
Can do.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. I had a parent ask if they already registered their SA for the first race, would they still get the discount if they registered for the remaining races? That's a question for you, Brian.
That is a question for Diane LeBlanc, our registration manager, who may have to contact NICA registration manager to get to the bottom of that one.
Okay. Yeah, it might have to be manually done or something else, since it's not putting all the races in one basket. So they should reach out to Diane LeBlanc, Diane, DIANE, at northcarolinamtb.org with that question, and she can get to the bottom of that. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. All right, next question.
Hey, Sean, this is Mark from North Buncombe High School.
Yes.
And I've got a question. I've had some parents asking me about the race series, the overall race series, and how it's been the best 4 out of 5 races. And with the structure of the schedule this year, I've got some parents that are kind of concerned with travel and that sort of thing. is there a possibility of maybe like having the discussion of maybe a 3 out of 5 series?
Uh, well, so it is best 4 out of 5, but this season would be the first season where we've had 5 races in the series. This is season 9, and seasons 1 through 8, it has ended up being best 3 out of 4 races because of weather cancellations and things of the like. So that that is one thing. It would be something that we can talk about, but I think at this time, I would tend to say it's going to be best 4 out of 5.
Okay.
And we can kind of go from there. So,
Okay. All right.
all right. And I see Imagine would support 3 of 5 series. Okay. All right. Other questions? All right, Brian, before we move away from news and the main topics, is there anything that you wanted to add for discussion this evening?
I think what we discussed this weekend, Sean, for head coaches in particular, ranking of your student athletes to support the first call-ups of the season. I know you and Phil Watson will work on the spreadsheet to send that out to head coaches to rank their athletes, just to get that on everyone's radar. And then the big composites, working the scoring splits here in early February to get that ready for the scoring team.
All right. And then I think we also were kind of talking about fitting new riders into the existing team splits that already were. So head coaches, go ahead and start thinking about that. So I want to kind of explain this a little bit more. Like, I don't want team splits to be a constantly shifting target. So last year you established your team splits based on geographic regions typically. And so now the new student athletes that you have that were not a part of your team last year, you need to figure out which team split they would go into. So the team splits will exist with the student athletes that they had last year, and then the new student athletes will go into the appropriate one based on the criteria that we had for splitting last season. That makes sense. So you can be thinking through that and getting that together, and you can reach out to me and I can share the spreadsheet with you again that you had to work from if you don't have access to it now, and I'll help you out with that as we go forward. Are we expecting to get a form to fill out, or we send in a one through ranking system, new team tips? So there will be a form that we put together for you to do, and it's ranked by category. So Greg, I know your team is relatively small. So if you only have like one student athlete per category, you don't have to worry about it because they're going to be called up first. It would only be if you had more than one student athlete in a category that they would need to be ranked in order. So the first one, the faster one would get called up first, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
All
so.
right. Yeah, and we'll be giving kind of a form for you to kind of fill all that information in so that we get all that in one place. Make Brian's life easier whenever he is calling out all those names at the race start. All right. Are there any other questions? Is there additional guidance on including fifth graders in races? What specifically is the question that you have, Chris?
I think there was some discussion back when we were kind of signing on to doing it that there might be some extra guidance, or are we adapting anything as far as courses or laps, or is it still just kind of up to coaches to guide them along best we can to race or not?
So, what has happened with the leagues that have already piloted this for a season and their experiences that they've had with fifth graders is that fifth graders are essentially like sixth graders. And so, what the sixth graders have been capable of, the fifth graders have been capable of as well. They haven't needed to do any course modifications. The laps have been fine. So, fifth grade will race one lap. There's just the fifth grade boys and the fifth grade girls categories. There's no upgrades or anything like that. So just fifth graders, and they will go off in their wave. If they are, sounds like we've only got 54, so we won't really have potentially two waves, maybe. It just depends, and we kind of go from there. I would, if you're concerned about a student athlete racing, you can talk that through with me if you want to email, and we can kind of talk about it. Or if it's a case where, you think maybe just with some coaching before the first race, they're going to be able to accomplish it. That's fine too. So it's kind of use your best judgment. I've only encountered in my time coaching like one or two student athletes that I was really honestly like having a conversation with the parents of saying, like, I don't think they're ready to do a race yet, but I'd love for them to come and be a part of it so they can see what a race is like and that sort of thing. But it's definitely worth a conversation if you have a concern.
Cool. Yeah, that's helpful. I definitely had a lot of questions to start, but as we get the season rolling, the fifth graders are very much like the sixth graders, as you said. If anything, we probably have some sixth graders that I have more questions about. But on that note, and other coaches that have been around longer might know this that are on our team, but we are looking like we might have a student athlete that has a smaller than optimal bike.
Mhm.
Are there options for that if someone has a 24-inch bike?
Uh, yeah, I mean, they can race it. But remember, we do have loaner bikes. And so I would encourage you, if that's, a concern, then, have the family fill out the loaner bike application form. Depending upon how tall they are, we should have a bike for them at this point. We've only had a couple of loaner bikes get applied for, and we've only got one that actually the loaner bike is going out. The others took advantage of some other things that we had going on. So have them fill that out, and then Brian Russell will reach out with some options that they have. There's a league loaner bike, and then there's a couple other things that they can choose from, and kind of go from there and see if we can get them on maybe a little bit better bike for their size, so that they're not kind of on something that's a little too small for them.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. They started the season on a 20-inch, and we quickly tried to convince them to move up from a 20-inch. The student athlete is on the smaller side, but yeah, that's helpful to know that there's other options out there. So we could try to work with them. Weather's not been on our side, but hopefully we'll see the student athlete again soon. Thanks, Sean.
Okay. Yeah, we do have some extra small loaner bikes. I do know that. So, it's an extra small 2.9er, and it might be a 27.5. I can't remember if the wheels are adapted for the smaller frames on the rock hoppers. I'm pretty sure it's a 29, but it's a really, really small bike that a small rider can get on, no problem.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Other questions? All right. Well, I want to talk with you a little bit about something that we did at our coach retreat that I want to bring forward to all of you because I feel like it was really worthwhile. And that is this idea of setting standards and not rules. And this is something I'm really, really excited about because as the chief referee, the last thing I want to do is to hand out penalties. And we've talked about kind of this idea of being the cheese, like, you know, the Swiss cheese model of things getting through the holes when they all line up perfectly and then something bad happens. This is kind of a step beyond that. And it is really reframing the NICA handbook. And so when we look at it, according to John O'Sullivan and the championship teammate or the champion teammate, he talks about how rules have a negative connotation. It's don't break me or else. And standards are a lot more positive. Live up to me and you will be your best self. And so while a rule is a regulation or a guideline, a standard is a level of quality. And when young athletes encounter rules, they consistently test them to see how far they can go before they are held accountable for breaking them. This is something that we see a lot with certain behaviors. Sets of rules can be exhausting to enforce and can cripple a coach's ability to make decisions on an individual basis. Standards, on the other hand, are inspiring. They are something to strive for and attain. They result in growth as athletes hold each other accountable for reaching higher instead of sinking to the level of a rule. In really simplistic terms, the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team, they talk about leave the shirt better than you found it, meaning the team should be better for you having been a part of it than it was when you became a part of it to begin with. And that is all about these standards. And so, what I'd like for us to take some time with right now is I've got these three standards: be present, be prepared, and be polite. And I'm going to divide you up into groups and I'm going to send you into some breakout rooms and give you about 5 minutes to look through the new 2025 NICA handbook. And I want you to specifically look at section 2, which starts on page 6, which has to do with the student athlete rules and regulations. And I want you to start looking at what rules would go with what category. So if you're in the be present category, I want you to be looking at rules that go with that. And you can just put the number of the rule. So like 2.1, 2.2, however you want to put it in there. Be prepared. You're going to be looking at the rules that would kind of be exemplified by the standard of be prepared, and be polite, rules that would be exemplified by the standard of be polite. All right. Like I said, I want you to take about 5 minutes. I'm going to split you up into these groups. But before we do that, does anybody have a question on what I'd like for them to do before we divide up into our breakout rooms? Can everybody give me a thumbs up that they understand the assignment? All right. Excellent. I'm going to open up the rooms. And like I said, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. It'll give you a 60-second warning before I close them. But I would like for you to all be typing in the same document. And you'll just be typing in the standard for the room that you are in. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open all those rooms now. Hang on just a moment. Did not put you in rooms like I wanted it to. Hang on just a second. All right. And I'm going to go through and assign you. All right. And those of you that are unassigned, I will assign you as we go. almost closed out. Welcome back, everybody.
Trying to enter mine, Sean. It's like they
No,
sometimes
no,
not go on the screen.
no problem. The text and the back and the highlight of the text were both set to white, so that's why it wasn't showing up. I'll fix that for you. Excellent. All right. So, what do you think of this? Let's get some feedback. What do you think about having standards instead of rules?
Standards also have consequences.
Standards do have consequences, but let's kind of be maybe clear about it. Like the standards of these rules kind of fit within these standards. So the rules still exist. There's still consequences to the rules, but now standards are a little bit easier for student athletes to hold each other accountable, as well as parents and coaches. So it makes it a little bit different to say, you know, are you present? Are you prepared? Are you polite? You know, those standards, because then we've got to have a discussion with the student athlete to actually figure out what these things mean, much like we just did together. So you don't want to really introduce this concept to your student athletes by going, okay, be present. Here's the rules that go under that. Be prepared. Here's the rules that go under that. Do the same thing I just did with you. Let's think about what just happened. So I said, I want you to take a look at the rule book and I want you to find the rules that fit with these standards. What did I get you to do?
Tricked us into reading the rule book.
Absolutely, Matt Hartman.
You're insidious.
Yes. It is called head fake teaching. I want you to do this thing, but I'm going to tell you I want you to do this thing. So I got you to read the rule book, right? Number one thing whenever I approached a student athlete about something that they were not doing correctly at a race, and they would say it with me now, I didn't know that was a
standard.
I didn't know that was a rule. Every time. I didn't know that was a rule. And they may not have known it was a rule because they signed that thing at the very beginning that says that they read, understand, and will abide by all the rules in the NICA handbook. But did they read the NICA handbook? No. So this was like a good exercise to get all of you to do that. And you could do the same thing with your student athletes. Say, okay, we're going to set some standards and let's see what rules go with those standards. You all look at the handbook and kind of go through that and you tell me. So this exercise gets them to look at the rules, but then it also helps them have ownership of what rules fit with what standard. So that when you go, are you being present right now? And they have an earbud in their ear, they know exactly what you're talking about. They know what you're referring to. All right. Let's see, let me pick up my chat here. I think it's a great tool to create a team culture and encourage positive behavior. We are having indoor practice tomorrow, and I'm going to do this exact exercise. Thanks. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that because this is something that I really feel like is super beneficial and it's really positive. Like, let's put a positive look at this as like a positive part of team culture. Here's our standards that we all try to live up to. Are we going to live up to our standards all the time? 100%? No. But if it's a teammate or a parent or someone that's saying, hey, are you being present right now? Are you being prepared right now? That catches that behavior before it gets caught by a referee or a race official so that then there's a penalty imposed. So one of the things that kids love to do is they love to push the limits and see where the penalty is going to come down. But then they're not happy when the penalty comes down. And so this way, we kind of all start off with a different outlook on it as like something to strive for. Let's strive for achieving all of our standards. Would anyone like to add anything else? Is there a standard that you think we're missing? Something that isn't capturing some aspect of the handbook? think about it and you can get back to me on that. You can email me like, hey, I think this. I would love it if it's alliterative and a P. Brian Russell helped me come up with the third P because I was like, be present, be prepared, be mindful, be I forgot what the other thing was. And Brian was like, wouldn't that just be polite? I was like, oh, wow, it's a third P. So, you all have something to contribute with this. And I'm really open to anything you can do to help us make this a much more positive experience for our student athletes. All right. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add before we end? Be proactive. Ooh, okay. That's worthy of going in here as a possible. Be proactive. All right. So we'll have to think about that. Be positive. Ooh, okay. Now I've opened the floodgates on keywords. All right. Be positive. Be proactive. Right. Excellent. Keep thinking about that. And like I said, use this activity to kind of help your student athletes go through that handbook. And also, I would really encourage you to do it with parents as well. There's a whole list of rules in there that all adults must abide by at our events. So make sure that parents also understand the rules as they apply to them. All right. Thank you so much. I know we went for almost the full hour tonight, but I really appreciate it. I think it's been really beneficial. And as always, if you have any questions, you can email me, Shawn, SHAWN at northcarolinamtb.org. And I'm more than happy to answer your questions and assist you in any way. Everyone have a good evening. And I'll see you later.
Do we get CEU credits for reading the handbook tonight?
CEU credits for reading the handbook? No. You're supposed to do that. You're a head coach, Ben. I know how the Wilco Wolves do it. Like they are wolves.
Hey, Shawn.
Yes.
Can I just want to say one thing. So I see Imagine is having a wilderness first aid class February 22nd and 23rd in Asheville. Okay. And we have a few spots. So if there's any coaches or student athletes 16 and above that want to attend, just reach out to me.
Okay. If you want to put that registration link in the coaches page on Facebook, I would encourage you to do that too. All right. So anyone, if you want to,
yeah,
awesome.
It's already there. So I thought if anybody wasn't on there and didn't see it, but cool. It's there.
Excellent. Yeah. If anybody wants to grab a WFA, hit up Aaron. Thanks for that.
Hey, Shawn.
Yes.
This is Sean Troy from South Lake.
Yes.
I put a question in the